Well, we got some people here with questions. So we should get you started off with a question from Gabe Bach at TexAgs.com.
Buzz, how you doing, man?
Hi, Gabe. How are you?
Really well, really well. What's your favorite thing about this particular group? Every year is a different group, right? You lost a couple guys, you've added some more. What do you think the strength of the team is going to be?
I think what my favorite thing is now, Gabe, is just how hard our returning guys have worked relative to incorporating the new kids. Obviously, every day was brand new last year, and the returning guys have much more of an understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And so being able to watch them try to explain it in their words and be the teammates that we want them to be, I would say thus far in our prep, that would be my favorite thing.
All right, your next question is from Travis Brown with the Bryan College Station Eagle, and then Chip Howard.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Where is he?
Right here.
There you go. Now I see you.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Hi, Travis.
Hey, doing well. How are you? Hey, curious on how Cassius McNeely has continued to develop and what impact you see him having on the team this season, because I know you said in the past year when he redshirted, he might be a guy that could be the best shooter on the team.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up, Travis, being a really good player. Obviously grew up around the game. You know, his dad is a college coach in Canada. Obviously, his uncle, Jamie, has been a distinct mentor of his throughout his growth and development. I think he's going to end up being a really good player. He understands how to play, skilled, big for his size. Body will continue to improve. Hard to speed him up, makes good decisions with the ball and without the ball, which is becoming more rare to find. He's not going to be with us this year. He's on scholarship. His family is concerned about the pandemic, rightfully so. He's on scholarship, taking online classes. He'll rejoin us next year, but he will not be with us this season. Gotcha.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
And then also just wanted to ask, what was a little bit of the background on the self-reported violations? How did you become aware of that, and what was the circumstances around those?
Yeah, we're very aware of everything as it happened, when it happened, everything that was mentioned in that article that Pat wrote, and we've handled it appropriately from the very beginning, and we'll continue to handle it the right way.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Right. Next up on the question queue is Chip Howard from Sports Talk.
Buzz, when you were at Virginia Tech, you had a video that went viral talking to the team about the anthem and standing properly when it was played. Are you doing that with this group? Has anything changed with everything that's happened over the last 6 months?
Yes, sir. I remember the video. I think that was in 2014, the one that you're mentioning. The SEC has adjusted their script as far as basketball games this year. So we've adjusted our protocol and how we're going to handle it. We will not be on the floor for the anthem. We'll be, because of how the script is going to play out, we'll be back in the locker room for the last time with our final prep. And so I remember the video, but we won't be on the floor this year. Did the league do that purposefully, do you think, because of? I'm not sure. You know, we have, as a program, been very transparent with all that's going on. Obviously, over the last 8 months, Chip, there's been a lot that has transpired. We were meeting on Zooms when the shutdown began way back when it happened. And then after the George Floyd killing, we went 15 consecutive weeks every Tuesday night only on social injustice. We had some of the leaders on campus speak to us. We had leaders across the country that were able to join us. So we've been very proactive in that regard, in learning from one another, and trying to figure out how, as a group, we can be together in our communities and how we want to be a part of positive change. So we've attacked this from the very beginning, but relative to what has transpired with the SEC and the changes in the protocol, I'm not exactly sure how they got to that point because I haven't been a part of any of those decisions.
Thank you.
All right, next question is from Mike Lucas with KAGS, and then Brent Zorderman.
Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. There you are. I see you now. What is those
Coach,
jerseys? The Globetrotters, and whose Rocket jersey is that?
that's Clyde Drexler from back in the day.
Yeah.
Coach, a lot of times players make their biggest improvements from their freshman to sophomore years, but teams in general sometimes and oftentimes tend to improve a lot between the first year with a new head coach and the second year. I'm curious from your perspective, why do teams take that next step in year 2 under new head coach? And can your team, is it ready to take that next step?
Good question, Mike. So do you remember when Coach Gruden got fired by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Do you remember that, or are you too young?
No, I'm just old enough to remember that.
Yeah. So you remember the family that owned the soccer team? They bought the Bucks, traded for Coach Gruden, so to say, and then eventually fired him. And when he got fired, he told his entire staff, until you get a job, I just rented out this strip shopping center over here, and you guys can come to work over here every day like you're coaching a team. So I would go down there every year to see Coach. Obviously, it turned into Monday Night Football. And he had done a study in the NFL based on players individually and then also based on teams. And the number was 22%. That the year 1 to year 2, you're looking for a 22% increment in a good way. And I started studying that from the time that he taught me that. And I would say that that's accurate relative to what I've been able to be a part of. I don't know. There's a laundry list of probably why that takes place. So I do think that there is just the continuity, just like what I mentioned earlier with Gabe's question. Kids kind of know what's going on. They know how you study in the film room. They know what you do on the floor. They know what you're going to do in the weight room. They know how you travel. Some of that anxiousness that is very high in year 1 becomes very low because at least there's a portion of the group that understands it. I think that's why staff continuity is really important. But I also think you'll hear all coaches, they want to get as old as they can, as fast as they can, and stay as old as they can. And that's because of that. I do like how our returners have handled the spring and the summer and the fall. The only thing that I would say is obviously it's been very unique relative to what we've been able to do. So will we have the same return as what you would like? I don't know, because we haven't had the same spring. We haven't had the same summer, nor the same fall. And that's kind of out of our control, but within what we have been able to control, our guys have done a good job.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Next up is Brent Zorderman from the Houston Chronicle, and then Andrew Hattersley.
Buzz, along those lines, how disappointing was it for y'all to not open up against some pretty good competition, obviously, in South Dakota? And what are your expectations for the season overall? Do you feel like you'll feel fortunate to have a season, or complete a season this year?
Yeah, Brent, I'm concerned. And probably similar to what's happened in your world, everything is different. And I want to handle our priority number 1 as far as the health and safety of our kids and everybody in our program the right way. But I'm a coach, and so we have to follow the experts, the medical experts, the guidance that they're giving us. And I think that safety and their well-being has to be priority number 1. And so, like, how is this going to play out? I mean, you see what's happened over the last 30 hours. I mean, it's like, well, just like South Dakota, we followed the advice of our medical experts. Like, we do not think we should leave Texas to go to a place where the numbers are the worst in the country. And then Wichita State gets there last night and they have multiple positives. And I'm not blaming that on the tournament. I'm not blaming that on South Dakota. Obviously, I have to call the tournament and the person that runs it. And, all of this is all just unprecedented. And so we're going to follow the guidance. We're going to continue to be as responsible as we can. But how is this going to play out? I don't know. But we have to be cautious. We have to be in as few of environments as possible. We have to be socially distant at every opportunity, even when we're together. Like, we haven't been in the film room. The film room is turned into the gym, and it's like, it's not a film room, but you have to, when can you practice? How can you practice? How many can practice? All of the things that because of what you do for a living. But our kids are living this for the first time, right? And so are the coaches who are coaches, yet we need to do right. And so I think our staff, our team has been very mature in how they've handled it. And it's kind of become, we're thankful for today. Do we get to practice today? Do we get to go to the weight room today? Do we get to watch film today? And all kids are resilient to some degree, but like, where is this going to be a week from today or a month from today? I don't know.
Thank you, Buzz.
Yes, sir.
Coach Buzz, the next question is from Andrews Hattersley, who I don't believe you've met yet, but he is from the Aggie version of 247 Sports. He's in a blue shirt.
Okay,
So,
now I see him. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Can you hear
Good,
me?
man. How you doing?
Good,
Yes, sir.
good. I was wondering what your early impressions are of Hassan Diarra and just how the freshmen have kind of adjusted overall, given the unique spring and summer.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to what a portion of my answer was with Mike. Like, it hasn't been a normal spring whatsoever. And, in typical years, the new kids would arrive on Memorial Day. Okay, well, they didn't arrive on Memorial Day. We would have had access throughout the summer in the weight room and the gym. We did not have that. We weren't even at work. They weren't here. So that's not specific to Texas A&M. Obviously, that's happening across the country. We have not practiced near as many times as what we would have in normal years. But I think every coach would say that. What I will say, I love Hassan, to answer your first question. I love him. I loved him from the very first day I talked to him, first day I watched him play. We recruited him really, really hard. I went to see him every week in New York / Connecticut. He's from New York, but went to a prep school in Connecticut, as you know, every week that I could before he made his decision. I love Hayden. Most of you guys probably know Hayden. He's tougher than he talks. He's tougher than he acts. Really excited about him. LaDamian goes by, his nickname is Papa, from Jonesboro, Louisiana. The quarantine was not nice to him. So he's working on getting back going, and he's come a long way in the 2 months that he's been here with us. And then Jackson Robinson, who committed to us as a 21, who, because of all that has transpired with the virus, ended up being a 20, has a very bright future as well. But to answer your question on Hassan, he's what we need. On the court, he represents all that we want to be about on and off the floor. And I think he's going to be able to help us from the beginning.
Thanks, Coach.
all right, next up is Gabe Bach from Texags. And then Daryl.
Yeah, Buzz, Quentin Jackson, one of my favorite dudes. I mean, we just have so much fun talking to him. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I know you love him, not just because he's a JUCO guy, but what he's
Yeah.
about. Where has he grown the most from last year until now?
Yeah, he's an easy guy to cheer for. And like, I know you've had access to Q. his spirit is contagious, and he's more intelligent than you think. He can have a conversation about more things than I can, for sure. Knows when to be funny, knows when to be quiet. He's learned to work. He's gotten to the point where he wants to work, and he wants to work more. The quarantine hurt him, Gabe, relative to his strength. He was getting to the point where he looked like he knew how to get to the weight room without a GPS. He lost some of his strength. He's back going in the right direction now. He needs to be able to shoot the ball much more consistently. He knows that. He spent time on his own away from us working on it. But I think just because of our relationship and because of how his mom and dad raised him, he's just built on the right things. I coach him a lot harder now than I did last year because of some of the things that I mentioned. When you're in year number one, you don't even know. He's very accepting of hard coaching. He's not to the point where he asks for it every day, but he's very accepting of it. And we need him to be better than he was last year. And he has the ability to be better. And because of all that he learned during year one with us, I anticipate he'll be able to execute some of those things in a much more efficient way.
Do you think he's a starter for you or an energy player off the bench?
What's the word? Vacillate? Does that mean back and forth?
Yeah.
That's what we kind of have a vocabulary game, as JUCO graduates. We try to compare words. I vacillate back and forth on what Q is, but he's going to play a lot.
Thank you, boss.
Yes, sir.
Next up is Daryl Bruffett from KBTX, and then Rob Havens.
Hey, Buzz, I wanted to know what your guys, just how excited they were to play somebody with a different jersey on, to not see the same faces, to be able to actually play a game.
Yeah. Like, Daryl, you're right. And I think that that's probably going on in every men's sport, basketball, women's basketball. It was it's been on Friday, 4 days ago. That's 38 weeks since we came home from Nashville. And so everything about those 38 weeks has been different than ever before. Different in regards to the spring, different in regards to obviously how the season abruptly ended, different in all of the spring, summer, fall workup leading to a game. Game number one being after Thanksgiving. And I say this respectfully, we hope that game number one is Sunday after Thanksgiving. It's just, they want to play. And, like any other athlete that you cover, kids want to play. And I think the whole thing is you want them to want to play, but in this environment, it's our responsibility to add a layer of leadership and guidance on top of all that's happening, making sure that we're following the advice of the medical experts. And even within all of that, they're still very excited to have a chance to play.
Thanks, Coach.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir.
Our next up is Rob Havens from Aggieland Illustrated, and then Travis Brown.
Howdy, Coach.
Hi, there he is.
Hey, so I've enjoyed watching your videos of you giving philosophies. I also enjoyed watching your workout, which was pretty crazy with the weightlifting and the push-ups. And if your players don't see that and get motivated to work hard, you're definitely leading by example. But I wanted to ask you, when you talk about that your philosophy is developing men of character and developing the men as opposed to coaching so much ball. Talk about your transition, kind of how that's changed over your years of coaching.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for keeping up with all that. The guy that on staff that helps me with all that, he was those Zooms, like I didn't, maybe you guys did because of your technological prowess, but I didn't even know what Zoom was. And so early on, I got to where I was saying, I was so bored, I got to where I was just saying yes to everything. And then I was like, I've got to change that because I'm not doing right in other parts of my life. And so they started videoing all of those Zooms. And so they've just kind of chopped it up. So thanks for saying that. I think honestly, Rob, and I try not to talk about this too much because I have to be careful that it doesn't come across condescending. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. I just think I've grown up. That's the bottom line. I think I've matured. You know, every time I have one of these and I see Logan, like I remember Logan when he was in high school. I remember going to do a home visit at Logan's house, and I start thinking of, I know this is not right, but I think back to what was important to me then versus what's important to me now. And so part of it is just my maturation as a person. I think part of it is my maturation as a dad, because now I have children that are growing up and I understand the position relative to how I need to help the children that are on our team. I think our staff, because so many of those guys have been with me for so long, they do more of the coaching and do better at it than I could ever do. And so I just think it's just part of the evolution, and maybe other coaches go through it. I know that I won't coach a long time the way some coaches in prior generations have done it, but I think that in the end, that's what's most important.
Thanks, sir. Have a great season.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Travis Brown from the Bryan College Station Eagle, and then Mike Luke.
Yeah, Coach. From piggybacking off Brent and Rob's questions, from what you said a lot is that all of us have changed a lot. We learned lessons through pandemic, through COVID, and with how much your fingerprint is on this program and your culture's on this program. How has the ways that you've changed and the lessons that you've learned going to impact, and how will we see that manifest itself in your players and in the culture and on the court?
You know, what's happened, Travis, is I could talk about that for a long time, so I'll try to be as succinct as possible. You know, some of what's transpired has forced all of us to figure out different ways to do things. I think I've improved as a teacher because for a long period of time, that was the only way I could talk to our kids, was like this. And so, you know, I got to where I was walking a long time every day, and, you know, I kind of figured out a path. And on the first half there, I would call all of our players. And then on the way back, I would call all of our coaches. And then the next day I would do all recruits one way. And then I would call their coaches on the way back. And so I kind of developed different rhythms and different routines. But I think because of all that has transpired, it's forced us as a program to adapt. And yes, it's because we're having to adapt to what the virus is allowing us to do. But I think long term, we've probably will become more efficient in some of how we teach. You know, like a lot, Travis, as an example, a lot of the stuff we were doing in the summer were things that we have never talked about until late September, early October. And so Hassan, those freshmen, those new kids, they weren't here until later than ever before in my whole career. But upon arrival, they knew things that kids this time, you know, retroactive, Savion and Jay and those kids didn't know last year. So I think we found different ways to teach, maybe to teach more effectively, much more comfortable. I'm not great at it by any stretch, much more comfortable using technology. The same exact thing has happened in recruiting. You know, like since the last time I saw you guys, I haven't been able to recruit. That's never happened. Obviously haven't coached a game, but it's just kind of forced us to learn to adapt. And so I hope that there's bits and pieces of that I think we'll implement going forward into how we do things, and maybe it'll allow us to be a little better.
Thanks, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I should have said that. Happy Thanksgiving to you, man.
All right, got time for just a couple more. Mike Lucas from CAGS, and then Chip Howard to wrap us up.
Coach, after obviously an unconventional offseason, what do you look for from your team in the first game of the season? And do the expectations of that change at all because it was such an unconventional offseason?
This is what I'll say on that, Mike. I think maybe you feel this in what you do. We're more grateful just for the chance, whatever that chance ends up being, because this is the longest period of time that I haven't coached or I haven't recruited, and everybody in my position would say the same. But the same can be true of the kids. The kids' whole world's changed. There wasn't an end to the season. There's not summer workouts. There's not a normal fall. And so I think all of us are thankful, and I think all of us are excited. But I think we're also aware that we have to be able to adapt, and we have to be able to maneuver while making sure that we're safe, while making sure we're going about this in a healthy way. And so I think that we value this day and this opportunity more, which in some ways translates to we go even harder. And so what I hope is, I hope that we can learn to play harder as a group earlier. I hope that we don't kick the ball all over the gym, even though we've had less practices like we did last year. And I hope that we can find a way from a rebounding standpoint not to just get annihilated for a long period of time before we figure out how important that is.
Thank you.
All right, we'll wrap it up with Chip Howard.
Buzz, who's your best shooter right now? And after watching the team a little bit, how well do you think you've addressed the shooting situation? And do you have guys that can score the three this year?
Are we playing for money? Are we shooting for money?
Sure.
Chip?
Sure. Why not?
Then I think I'm the best shooter.
Is that a problem?
Yeah, it's always a problem. But I will say this. I do think that it's a concern, particularly if you study the numbers, and I know you paid attention to that last year. I think we're addressing it, and I think we're continuing to address it. And, obviously I watch more tape this summer than ever before because I was at home every day, and that's never happened in my life. And, you start just like typical coach, you start studying one thread of things, and then it turns into a different category, and it just turns into a long series of things to study. Do you remember when Nick Nurse, he won the world championship with the Raptors last year? You remember when he coached when Daryl Morey got the job with the Rockets, he hired Nick Nurse as the coach of their D-League team down in South Texas. And they did they called it a shot spectrum. And, it's different in the NBA because the court dimensions, but that was where the James Harden, all of the money ball, shoot a layup, shoot a three, shoot a corner three, that shot spectrum. I don't know if you remember that. And that led me to studying a lot of different numbers relative to shooting. I think with the way the game is played now, Chip, it's hard to play with two guys on the floor that can't shoot. And it's becoming even close to difficult playing with one guy on the floor that can't shoot. And so I think it's got to continue to be a priority in what we practice. I think it's got to continue to be a priority in what we recruit, because I think as the game continues to evolve into switchables, you're going to have to play with five guys on the floor that can shoot. So I think we'll be better. We have yet to prove it because some of those guys have yet to put on a uniform, but I do think that we're addressing it the right way in our practice time, in our time individually with our kids, but also in our recruiting.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Yes, sir.
Coach, that's all the questions we have for you. Thank you for your time.
Good to see you. Thank you so much.